What's up, you beautiful bastards? Hope you're having a fantastic Monday. Oh, wait, that's already taken. What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Happy hot as fuck day. My name is PewDiePie. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not buying any more. I'm not buying any more games. I'm not buying any more merchandise. I am officially done with Square Enix. Oh, who the fuck am I kidding? Of course I'm still going to. And that's the frustrating thing. Having the franchise I love most trapped behind a company like Square Enix. Now, some of you might be going, holy crap, Pez. Why have you turned on Square Enix? You're the Square Enix fanboy. You're the defender. And you know what? To a degree, you are right. I have defended Square on numerous occasions, and I'm going to still stick by my guns that I still do not, despite what I'm going to say in this video, I still don't agree with a lot of the narrative that the fan base paint. Things I'm talking about are the retarded things like Squaresoft were better than Square Enix. I've covered that video. I've said why there was no intrinsic difference between Squaresoft and Square Enix, and why the games that you most likely think are Square Enix are also in fact Squaresoft. That includes 10-2, the first sequel game, that includes the first MMO, FF11, and it includes FF12. So this idea that it was Square Enix who started the whole prequel, sequel, milking each title for more than just the one title, they were the ones who started the MMOs, they were the ones who changed the combat system, simply not goddamn true. As most of you know, I also don't agree that the latest Final Fantasy games have been shit. My favourite is Type 0, I love FF15, the 13 trilogy is one of my favourites. So often a lot of the rants I see to shit on Square Enix, they're purely subjective ones. You'll either like what they did with the latest games, or you won't like them. That's why it's so pointless to argue about it on that front, and that's why even if I didn't like the current games, I still wouldn't use my personal I was subjectively disappointed with this game to say this company is shit. That's weak. It's weak. That's weak as fuck, and that's why I often don't engage in those kind of arguments. And if I get someone present it to me, what do you think of Square Enix now? I'll simply say, I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you on that point. And that, of course, gets me turned into a Square Enix fanboy. Because I have the belief that if there are 25 million players on the Final Fantasy mobile games, that there is clearly a market, there is clearly a substantial portion of gamers who are enjoying their mobile titles. So who am I to argue with that, even if I don't like it myself personally? And it's the same with the DLCs. I like DLCs, and it's these kind of things that, you know what I'm saying, guys? That's just a load of bullshit. But why I am done with Square Enix now, why they have pushed me one step too far, why I am calling them out for the incompetent company that they are. It does have, I mean, this has been building up a while, but it was the Square Enix Presents that was just the cherry on the top. Oh, Square Enix Presents, what the fuck was that, Square Enix? What was that? I mean, it was beyond a joke. I know in those streams I was quite comedic and light-hearted and having a joke with you guys, but taking the humour aside, it's fucking bad. In fact, it's beyond bad. It's just a straight-up insult, Square Enix. I don't think I'm going to quite be able to put fully into words just how much of a slap in the face and a kick in the bollocks that Square Enix Presents was, but I'm going to try. So besides getting next to absolutely jack diddly squit all for 2017, no, we got the Zodiac Age, but we knew that was coming. The Final Fantasy 15 fishing VR, we knew we was going to get some sort of VR, and frankly, who really gives much of a shit about it? Even people like me who are tepidly interested, we're still hardly going to be jumping through hoops with the excitement for the VR. But the reason I didn't even rant on that, and why people thought I was defending Square Enix, is because I see the fishing VR as just a filler. Virtual reality headset, DLC, little tiny one, that is majorly supported by Sony, so the resources, the endorsement that they're going to be getting for that, and just how little a team and resource it would have taken to do that DLC, I really can't buy into the argument that you're giving us this DLC instead of this DLC. This is the argument I see around a lot, all the DLCs we wanted, this is the one you're giving us. No, it's stupid to make the argument that this fishing VR is in some way going to take off another DLC or taking away resources from another. Simply not true. But then besides that, what else did you give us to be excited for in 2017, Square Enix? Mobile titles. Not even new ones. Expansions on mobile titles. Now, I don't have a problem with them, but I do have a problem with the way you presented them. Tastelessly shoving it down our throat. But not even that Kingdom Hearts and Dissidia, you announced those before E3. You decided to play the hand of the hype reveal of those titles before E3. And why did you do it, Square Enix? Was it because you wanted to intentionally make your Square Enix Presents, your appearance at E3, as shit as it was? I kind of feel like it must have been intentional. I mean, it had to be intentional. It was beyond a joke. And this is why I'm done with Square Enix, guys. Because after the first shit show of the 30th anniversary, for so long people have said, and I've always known, that they've treated us here in the West with contempt. Perhaps contempt is a bit of a strong word. though it certainly feels like that at times. They have always treated us here in the West like shit, like the second-class citizens we are, like the afterthought, and that's even if they think about us at all. The number of times we've had, games not released here that any Final Fantasy fan is yearning to see, or just generally the release dates, or the trailer releases, or the news releases. They have started tidying up bits, which gave me hope that they were taking us here in the West seriously. But then there's always things that are just huge disappointments, something like the FF15 Ultimania. Do you know how badly I want to get my hands, and there are fans who are scrambling around the internet looking for translated versions of that book? Why? Because even those of us who enjoyed FF15, there are still huge parts of the story we want to know, and we're yearning to know for. That's the thing that some people don't get. Even when you say you enjoyed FF15, that doesn't mean to say that you still don't also think the story wasn't fleshed out enough, and there were incomplete parts of the story. I mean, it very clearly was, and that's why getting your hands on something like the Ultimania to perhaps fill in those blanks for those of us who are passionate about the game. For you to say fuck it on a simple translation job and not bring it over here, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth. I'm sorry guys, I said I was going to have a rant, but that's not even the worst of it. In fact, I've talked about the petty, the minor. The biggest issue is what you did to the 30th anniversary. 30 years of Final Fantasy. A huge milestone. Something that you had, shouted about, you tweeted about, you Facebooked about, you'd made really cool, like the logo designs. To get us all hyped, you made the 30th anniversary website, you started merchandising it, and it's on you, Square Enix. There's some people who seem to think, oh, fans taking 30th anniversary too seriously. Square Enix never said they were going to do anything. Bullshit. They got us excited for it. After all that build up, what did they do to celebrate it? Put on a 30th anniversary event they didn't even stream. They didn't even show us. Yet they did invite certain members of the public. That's the thing, it wasn't just an investors event like some people said. They knew it was going to get tweeted out, and in fact they tweeted about it all after themselves. I think that's pretty clear. Who the fuck else it was the FF7 snow sculpture for? The sculpture that they did 20 years ago at the FF7 launch, was that for investors? Of course it wasn't, so fuck out everything else we saw it. You showed a clothing line, you showed cake and wine, you know where this is going, you showed cup noodles. Cup noodles! Something that was a bit of a laughy joke, how much you advertised in FF15 that we could brush aside, and perhaps if you'd have put in a really packed, decent 30th anniversary event with ports and a crystal chest, and actually some sort of recognition of 30 years of this franchise that we have followed, perhaps we could have given you a cup noodle pass. But what else was there? There was crystal glasses, and a whole load of other bullshit fucking merchandising that we didn't care about, followed up by absolutely nothing besides a FF7 screenshot, and mobile title. So that was our first 30th anniversary event. A commercial shit show where you tried to force your mobile titles even more upon us, making it the highlight of 30 years of Final Fantasy. How the fuck can you get away with putting a Mobius and Brave Exvius at a 30 years of Final Fantasy event? What kind of significant impact did these two titles have on 30 years? Is this really the pinnacle? Is this what you want to celebrate? The mobile titles? And this is what's going to happen, Square Enix. The mobile titles are beginning to grow here in the West. Now, people have typically been, oh, I don't like these, very standoffish to them, but they've slowly started warming to them. We've seen that, and when you put in your latest fiscal report that you're going to aggressively market mobile titles in the West. Oh, I mean, I can't believe I'm having to say this. That is not how you go about, getting Westerners warmed up to your mobile titles. That's going to do, in fact, just the opposite. It's going to make us hostile towards them. It's going to piss us off. Even me, the most accepting person of mobile titles, I'm now beginning to get pretty pissed off. And now whenever I see you mention a mobile title, I feel a bit queasy in the stomach. I feel a bit betrayed. I feel a bit butthurt. I feel a bit jaded. And can you imagine now what that's going to do for the other people who already hated mobile titles? You've just sent them packing in the other direction. But you knew all of this, Square Enix, and this is what really pisses me off. They knew. Well, at least you'd think they know. And this is what I'm going to say. It might not necessarily be Square Enix I'm pissed off with. Square Enix themselves, their developers, their games, because I do like those. More their community staff here in the West, their community management, their community teams, the community structures that they have, run by the most idiotic, bumbling turds I have ever met. And this is what Square Enix Present showed to me. It really made me understand why community support here in the West, in Europe, in America is as bad as it is. Any single one of you watching this video right now, if you had the job of a community manager, or community management here in the West, and you saw the response to the 30th anniversary. Because of course that's your job. Community manager is to assess what the community is thinking and feeling and their response to things. You would have known that the 30th anniversary didn't go down well with anyone. I literally mean no one. There is no one. I've done a fucking poll and no one voted that it was a good event. So any half decent or half intelligent community team would see that and they would look towards fixing that at the next 30th anniversary. And this is where we come on to Square Enix Presents. They opened with another 30 years of Final Fantasy, and I thought to myself, no, this is going to be a fantastic set. We're going to get some sort of collector's editions. We're going to get some sort of ports, or not a remaster, but ports I was mostly expecting. But even if you hadn't managed to get some sort of really cool collector's edition of ports, at least it would be a celebration of 30 years of Final Fantasy. We'd go back, we'd learn things. You talk about 8, you talk about 9, about 7, about 2, about 1. You'd make a really good effort at celebrating 30 years of Final Fantasy this time. But instead, what did they do? They spent 30 minutes to ask 6 questions. What were the questions? Well, they were so mundane, pointless, uninteresting, and frankly just damn distasteful and disrespectful that I can't even remember half of them. But when a community staff manager decides that they're going to ask questions like, what is a Final Fantasy? Most pointless re-asked question over and over, but that was about the best question, because after that you heard of our latest mobile titles, Brave Exvius and Mobius. Mr. Hashimoto, have you played our latest mobile titles? Can you tell us anything else about the mobile titles? I quite like the ATB system. Do you ever foresee the mobile titles getting something like that? Woo! They spent half an hour to ask questions like that at the 30th anniversary, the opening of E3. It solidified something I'd always known, and Square Enix had been showing the signs of for the last few years. It just solidified it, that they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit about the franchise. They don't give a shit about what us fans want. They don't give a shit about taking community feedback seriously, because if they had, they wouldn't have done that. In my eyes, it's also proof that they just see us as a big fuck off dollar sign. We're just a big walking pound, sterling, threepence, whatever your damn currency is. That's all they see us as. Because when they say in their fiscal report, we're going to try to aggressively drive mobile titles, and then they come out at the 30 years of Final Fantasy and ask 5 mobile related questions, you're making it too obvious, Square. Us as gamers always we know deep down that all you want is our fucking money. But at least sometimes, we fall for the trick that you actually care about us, care about our opinions, respect us as a fan base. Respect creating a community type environment around your game. But you've just done away with all of that. You've done away with even the semblance of giving a shit about our Square Enix. And yes, I'm fucking mad. I am mad. I'm pissed off. It's got nothing to do with 7 Remake not coming down. It's got nothing to do with new titles not coming down. It's the fact that they shoved on 2 half-assed presenters who hadn't even read through their script. They were so clear they were last-minute presenters. It makes me think, why didn't you just cancel the event? That would have been better, Square Enix. It's so clear you had nothing to give us, that you just threw on a couple of fucking idiots who have absolutely no idea what they're doing beyond even the average person. Because that's the thing, even if you had nothing, even if 3 or 4 of anyone on my Facebook group had to plan a 30 years of Final Fantasy event and you gave them no material or substance, they still would have come up with something better than those 6 fucking questions. They still would have come up with something better than taking 5 minutes to talk about a Tokyo exhibition. A Tokyo exhibition. Why are you telling us about that here in the West? Oh, just if you happen to be popping over to Tokyo, and then again, rounding out with cake and wine. No, you brought it up at the first one, you bring it up again, and what is even a greater slap in the face with that is you can't even fucking buy the cake and wine. It's not even available here in the West. What the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? It's unbelievable. I mean, the fact is, we actually do have some exciting things to be looking forward to from you, Square Enix. You recently, no, helped release Nier. I was going to say helped release Nier. And I'm talking about Nier. That's the only thing that was good at Square Enix Presents. Literally, the only good thing was the Nier in concert. The Nier in concert was absolutely spectacular. And that's it, isn't it? Platinum Games and Yoko Taro here to save the day again. Said you should be taking a leaf out of their book, and it looks like you've done everything but, because, you know, it was Platinum Games and it was Yoko Taro who put on a tasteful set. And then what did Square Enix even do to round that out? You brought on 4 fucking idiots. Well, 3 idiots. I'm going to say 6-0. The voice actress for 6-0 was there. She was awesome. But 3 idiots then. And you made them put on wigs. And you had them go up against the Emil boss and wipe again and again and again. That's how you decided to follow up the really tasteful Nier in concert. That's how you followed it up. Is it any fucking wonder that Yoko Taro tweeted out, I can't remember the exact tweet, but he was saying that these morons on stage, he's glad he's not there to see these idiots. One of the worst Square Enix Presents I have ever seen. Cherry on the floor cake is when they said, we're going to cruise over the last hour. We're just going to wade it out with an hour of Brave Exvius. Your mobile title again. Had one of your staff members get his mobile out and play an hour of Brave Exvius. Woo! What a climactic ending that was. Now, we couple that in with all the cringe and the stumbles and how cringy. It was an embarrassment, Square Enix. You were an embarrassment at Square Enix Presents. And frankly, if you don't look and reflect back on your Square Enix Presents and you don't glaringly see how bad it was, you're just going to support what I already know, and what we already know is that your community staff, they don't ever do any kind of self-reflection or introspection on the events that they put on. Now, there was a few good things in there. Admittedly, the Promptos DLC was a good showing. The Dissidia, all in all, was a good showing. But even all of those things also was kind of a bit of an insult, because the other thing is that also made it so clear, and why I'm also so mad, is it's so obvious that Square Enix sees us here in the West as idiots. They think we're low intelligent simpletons. I mean, I am. But they think the rest of us are. And what really showed that to me is the way you presented everything. You presented it like you were speaking to children. Now, like you were speaking to 2-year-olds or 3-year-olds. When you brought the TCG out and you had this little, do we even call it a skit or performance? This little back and forth where you were talking. This is how you play this card. It's exciting. And you try to explain to us what a Final Fantasy is. And you have to try to tell us 3-4 times what is in the FF15 universe. Wasting 10 minutes after 10 minutes after 10 minutes. Recapping, re-emphasizing, re-pointing it out. Go to the store. I mean, there was even a question. So how do I do pre-orders? How fucking stupid do you think we are? We know how to pre-order. We know what a Final Fantasy is. I mean, even the Dissidia showing. Rather than showing the really cool mechanics of Dissidia and mixing it up, what did they actually start with? They started with a movement tutorial. You know the basic tutorial you get at the start of every game? How to move, how to look, how to use your spells, buttons to press, analog stick left, analog stick right. That's what they were doing for Dissidia. That's not how you present a game. What other developer did you see at E3 explaining the movement? I know you can say, oh, Pez will explain the tutorials, but no one else does this. And this is why when Square Enix come on and they feel like they have to explain it in such a basic way to us, it does feel like you're being spoken to like an idiot. I don't see how anyone could disagree with that that was the general theme, the general mood, that they do think we're idiots. And they try to sell to us in the most basic, manipulative ways. With FF15, all the little features that they brought out, a fantastic one for an example of the idiots they think we are. They'll fall for this one, hook, line and sinker, was the Magitech exosuits. Yeah, we know why you did it, Square Enix, because we also had a Power Rangers movie coming out here in the West. And yes, I know it's also a Japanese thing, but it was coming out here in the West. They tried to sell to us with open world, they tried to sell to us with all the other little features, that other Western games have started flogging. And they were flogging those 6-7 years ago in just a very two-dimensional way. They've got a bit more elaborate in making it seem like they're not just basically trying to sell us on flashy features. But Square Enix are so far behind that it just comes across as so cheesy and corny and obvious what you're doing. that frankly, while I still love this franchise, I still love all the mainline titles, and I am still no less excited. It does make me concerned about what you're going to do. Now, going forward, squeaky ass floor. Going forward, because another example of how dumb and simple they think we are is with FF15. What did Tabata say when it became very clear that it was no longer versus 13? And we went to a console era shift, and we came over to the PS4, and they identified this was not going to sell to Japan, it was going to have to sell to here in the West. When that news was all coming out, and Tabata was saying, we're going to have to sell this to you guys in the West, and we're trying to speak to Western developers and see what you're interested in, what's one of the first things that happened during that time? They simplified the story. Tabata came out and said, we're looking to present this game in a simple, simplistic way. What, is that because we're simple? And I'm going to say, I'm not even going to blame Square Enix a lot of this. I'm going to blame half of you are looking at this fucking camera right now. I'm going to blame Western gamers. Why? Because with JRPG titles for the last 30 years, should I say, there has been nothing but that complaint that JRPGs are convoluted. Now, while us, who enjoy JRPG stories and games, we work to understand those titles. We know that something like FF13 or FF7. Now, FF7 has some very trippy plot devices, and it's a lot to understand. You really have to put a focus in. You can't play in this sort of backseat, mindless, vapid Cheetos round the face game. You actually have to sit up and pay attention and read data log. And take careful attention and interest in the story. And for those of us who are willing to do that, to engage in a story on that kind of level and understand its complexities, we are the ones who are the Final Fantasy fan base and the JRPG fan base. While as everyone else who fell off the bus, they fell off with complaints like convoluted story, too hard to understand. I mean, there's always been this disconnect, and it just seems like, yep, you've decided to try to sell it to the West, and I see why they have to do it, but it just makes me scared for the franchise. It makes me scared for FF7 Remake. Are they going to try to simplify that? Are you going to try to not go too far out with what's happening in Cloud's subconscious, and that he isn't a first-class soldier? He actually failed, he's too weak, and everything with Genova, and the intricacies of Sephiroth. Are you going to try to dial it all down and simplify? Because you think we've all got an IQ of 72, which I really think they do. I'm sweating so bad in this video, and I really need a poo. So there it is, that's my rant. I had to get off my chest. This is how I feel about Square Enix right now. They're not selling their games well at all. They can't present for shit. It was the worst thing I've ever seen at an E3 Square Enix Presents. I'm deeply ashamed of them. Even more ashamed of the community staff. I think it's gone beyond the boundaries of a joke now. I don't think it's just the Square Enix Presents. I think this is a concurrent issue that I've seen growing over the last few years. Still really excited. I'm still not giving out hope. But even with something like the TCG, no one's going to buy it now after seeing that. You would have been better not to have done Square Enix Presents, because I actually think you've hurt the sales. You gave it such a bad showing, I think you're actually going to hurt sales. And even with Dissidia, a really exciting game, there's so many angles you could have spoken about that game. Talked about the tournament structure, what works, what you've got planned for the future, things about characters and team compositions. Really gone into some depth with it. You showed a basic movement tutorials. What was even worse is when they brought on some of those pro gamers, and we had to watch Cloud and Squall fight. I think it was... Well, Cloud was 3 times, Squall was twice. They kept bringing out the same characters, and you had them spam abilities. I mean, they literally spammed. This was how you showed off a MOBA, or fighting game. There's so much contention over whether it's called a MOBA or fighting game. A fighting game, let's call it. In an arena with multiplayers online, but it's not a MOBA. What do fighting game players hate most? They hate ability spamming. That's instantly a turn off for a game, and you must know this, Square Enix. You can't be that dense and thick. So when you had 2 gamers come on, why didn't you tell them to not take the game seriously? Pick up different characters and really show off the moveset. But no, instead they had Cloud doing Meteor Rain again, and again. And you also had Squall spamming his I can't remember the name of the move. Spamming the same moves. Cloud was spamming Meteor Rain and Cross Slash, and it just instantly, even me, who's super excited for Dissidia, I watched that and I went, yeah, you know what? Even I'm getting a bit turned off looking at that. While I'm super hyped for Dissidia, and I can even watch that and go, no, I'm still hyped for it. I'm still hyped for it, despite seeing that. For someone who you are there For the purpose of Square Enix Presents, you're there to try to, get this attracted to new people. That's the whole purpose of Square Enix Presents. You were there to promote interest, and I think you couldn't have done any more the opposite. I don't actually think it's even possible. Stop treating us like idiots. Stop disrespecting the Final Fantasy franchise. Stop making it so obvious that you're looking to milk us with your fucking mobile titles, because frankly it's just disgusting. Fire your entire community staff here in the West, minus the FF14 dude. So FF14 was a good showing, and again, another fantastic thing we've got in 2017. I missed that off for the 2017. We have Stormblood, a new MMO expansion. We do have good games to be excited for. But number 5, start treating us like the customers we are. Because you need us now. There's no denying that. Like I said, Japan's left you. If you want to continue being relevant on the AAA market, Square Enix, and you want to continue being relevant in console gaming, you can't keep treating us like morons, and you can't keep giving Japan priority. And there it is. That's the feelings off my chest. I'd love to know what you think. I've been reflecting on this on a few days now. So this isn't just a knee-jerk reaction to that Square Enix Presents. It's a little bit, it's a bubbling feeling. I've thought it over. I stand by what I'm saying. Do you guys agree with me? Do you disagree? Feel free to let me know whatever you damn well think in the comment section below, because I don't give a shit. Hey, Square Enix is the one who have to read community feedback, not me. Let's have a chat about it in the comment section. I know there are going to be a lot of people who have had these concerns. I know there's going to be a lot of people who go, oh no, Peasant, you finally clocked on. You finally twigged it. I've known this for years about Square Enix. I don't think, looking in the past, they've been as bad as what I've seen this year. I just don't agree with it. Alright, I'm done. I'm hot. It's crazy in here. This picture is beautiful. Where's Type Next, man? Where's Type Next, Square Enix? Where was FF7 Remake at E3? I'm going to talk about that in a separate video. There it is, guys. Until the next video. Kubo!